Here we go. We get people in focus there. Great. So I guess the first thing is if you could identify yourself.
I am Simon West.
And I am Richard Wenk.
And you came to the Mechanic to remake this 70s. Mm-hmm. Is it a semi-classic or a cult film, or is it a fairly obscure film at this point?
I don't know. It seems to be a cult classic. Everybody here knows it. I didn't grow up with it, so I had never seen it. I got a call from Erwin Winkler saying that he wanted to send me the script, and I knew nothing about it, and I read it, and then I understood that, he'd been trying to redevelop it for 17 years or something, and had hundreds of drafts with different writers all over the place. And in the end, they went back to the original. They just sent me the original typewritten Louis Carlino script, and so that's what we based it on. And I obviously had to be completely updated. I read 16 blocks that Richard had written, and I loved it, from the first
16
page.
Blocks was the Bruce Willis sort of unofficial remake of the Clint Eastwood movie?
Well, part of that is correct.
Okay.
It was actually inspired by 310 to Yuma, the short story, but yes.
Oh, okay.
It was a good movie, the bottom line.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so the script was really good. So I called up Richard and said, we need to update this, and so we kept the structure, and it follows exactly the same structure, but every single word within it was rewritten by Richard, and we had to completely reinvent all the action sequences to update them, because unfortunately it's been ripped off so many times since, or homaged, I suppose, that it's created a whole new subgenre, the Hitman movie. And so, to try and reinvent that, it felt like going back to the beginning was the best thing, and also going to reality, because so many of these remakes or Hitman movies have got so fantastical and outrageous that they really are fantasies now. And we wanted to go back and make it as real and gritty and what it's really like to do that sort of dirty job, which is sort of glamorous in the spy kind of, you have to sneak in and sneak out, but it's still a messy business.
But Richard, when you say you had to contemporize this, then what does that mean exactly?
Well, as Simon pointed out, we've seen this Hitman genre hundreds and hundreds of times. They're all retiring, they want out, they want this, they have great guns that can shoot around corners and from 1,000 feet. And what we both liked about it was the inside story of a man who did this for a living, who killed his friend and took his son on as an apprentice, only to have his son find out. So we started with that. And then the real challenge was to find ways in which we could freshen up the hits and the world. And that really was by kind of turning everything on its head. If you remember the opening of the original, it's quite a classic opening. It's 10 silent minutes of Charles Bronson stalking a man and killing him. Now, since then, we've seen lots of those, and we all know what's going to happen at the end of 10 minutes. So the challenge here was we don't want to redo that, so we sort of flipped it. Simon called me up one day from New Orleans and said, I have a great location, a house, a pool. Why don't we just do this backwards? Why don't we start with the victim and insulate him so it's impossible to get near him, and then have him killed? That would pretty much show how good he is without going through all the little things we've seen 1,000 times. And we started to approach that with every single sequence in terms of the fact that you do have to get dirty, and things do go wrong, and things do get pretty ugly and bloody, and it doesn't always go according to plan. And killing people is not easy, especially when you need to make it an accident.
Alfred Hitchcock was very famous for saying that with that scene where they're trying to put the Paul Newman, Julie Andrews movie in the oven, trying to kill the person.
Yep, it's not an exact science.
Torn curtain.
Yeah.
Okay. And Simon, then when you go back to doing this with the actors, I understand that they wanted to do their own stunts, including jumping off a 20-story building.
Well, it's funny, that's getting smaller. It was actually a 45-story building. It was 450 feet, because I stood on it, and it was terrifying. And but Jason is fearless. That's his thing. He can run around the outside of it. He can have fights and lean over it, and he was fine with jumping off. I always knew he would jump off it. And the morning we were going to do the stunt, I was having breakfast with Ben, and he said to me, "So Jason's going to do the stunt, right? He's going to jump off." And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, I suppose I better do it as well then." And I went, "Okay," because I'd planned to have a double do it. And so, Ben has vertigo, so which is couldn't stand on a table.
Where Jason has this Olympic diving history,
Yeah.
where he's used to being up on a little
Yeah, well,
thing.
I actually said that because I thought I'd heard that, and I said to Jason, "So, what was the highest, diving board you dive off?" And he went 30 feet, and so 30 feet and 400 feet, it's not quite the same. So I don't think it really does prepare you. He just happens to be, of that mentality that he's not scared and loves doing the action and wants to be, because he's got, he wants to be seen to be doing it to be reality. He hates green screen. He won't even sit in a car with a green screen behind him. So he wants to do all the action himself, and he brings everyone along with him. It's like the other actors suddenly find themselves doing all the stunts and.
Did Ben Foster throw up after he jumped?
Not that I saw, but if he said he did, I'm sure he did.
Okay.
But
he
kept
had
it
to be
quiet.
nervous, right? We haven't spoken with him.
Yeah. Oh no. I mean, I think he was terrified, and you can see it on the film. When I got the film back, I could see how terrified he was because I wasn't going down with him, but the camera was.
Yeah.
And so, there's this great shot, and I think it's in the trailer and it's definitely in the movie where he's flying towards the camera and he looks scared, and which is fine for his character because he was the apprentice. And of course, Jason, the problem was is he looked so together. I actually had to sort of put post shake on it and everything to make it, because he was sort of making it look too easy because he was just like going down casually, and you're going, this is supposed to be terrifying. And so, for his character, he could look slick, but Ben had to look frightened, and he definitely did.
What about the idea that we never know who is employing, who the agency is that's in charge here? Is it a government agency? Is it a covert government operation?
Well, that's what, like, some of the earlier drafts, I think, went off into that tangent of who they are and what the motivation is, and I think we ended up thinking it wasn't that interesting. I know we had endless discussions about it, so I don't know if you want to.
Well, yeah, we went back again to that, which I think is perfect for this story. Is it's just an organization. There's a line I put in late in the movie, and they're driving after they killed Tony Goldwyn, and he said there's always going to be somebody who's going to pay you to kill somebody. And it didn't really matter who it was. It didn't need to be complicated with governmental ties or mafias or anything else. It just was a business.
Yeah, he's a freelance guy, and
Yeah.
and it's some people were worried about the morals of that shouldn't he just be killing bad people and things? Well, but he's not. He's a subcontractor, and he doesn't know who they are or why they need to die. That's what he does, and that's his living. And I think the audience is sophisticated enough to go, okay, we're in that world. We'll forgive him for that.
But don't we find out, aren't we told that, all the people that we see get killed do have these despicable histories of what they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, that is, shored up, but I think, because we only concentrate on 3 hits, in my, backstory is like, those 3 might have been bad, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that weren't so bad, or were just bad for the wrong people, or, people's definition of bad. So, the way I kept in my head was that he's not a vigilante just doing things for the right. He's just a contractor.
And do you think this is a movie as entertainment for people who just want to go see people kill people?
I think it's a nice twist on a very classic genre. The Hitman movie has been around for a long time, and I think it's fun. I think it's interesting, and I think it's different. And to me, that's what would make me go see a movie. You could go see The Godfather, and they kill everybody, and they kill their own brother, and we're okay with that. And see, Fredo's stupid, and I thought Fredo was nice. So the fact of the matter is that when you immerse people in a certain world, you buy into it, and then you entertain them through the stories.
Okay, so they've talked about how in this movie it's sort of the character is interesting because the lifestyle necessitates. Thank you, necessitates a life of isolation. But the executives in the organization have children and families and all of this, and yet they've mentored, or Donald Sutherland has mentored him. Was that a choice that you made, that somehow once you were behind a desk you then had children?
No, I think it's just the fact
life?
that Arthur Bishop is a bit unique, and that's why he's probably the best at it, because he has done all that. If other guys have probably tried to have families and real lives and it didn't work.